Шановні колеги, ми продовжуємо роботу в Українському кризовому медіа-центрі. Тема наступної події – майбутнє.
Topic of the next event is the future economy of Ukraine in the context of the challenges for European Union. The floor is given to Anatoliy Maksiuta, former Deputy Minister of Economic Development and Trade of Ukraine. First, I would like to thank everyone who came to discuss the topic that we are suggesting. Before I give the floor to our experts, I would like to say that we are organizing this roundtable on the eve of very important events in the economy of Ukraine. We expect that we will receive the draft state budget in the nearest future, and also today we expect that the issue of getting the IMF tranche will be resolved when the work is going on the budget. We hear many discussions on the priorities of the development of Ukraine. How will the money be used for agriculture, energy saving, increasing the salaries and budgetary sphere? Also, the government has turned its face to the industry and is planning to develop the industrial sector. Also, there were several international events taking place, Summit G20, and recently many of us were at the Economic Forum in Krynica, Polish town, where many global issues and European issues were discussed. A lot was said about Ukraine there, a lot about Brexit and the future of Europe. And today we invited you to this roundtable to discuss all these issues, to look at the economic perspectives of Ukraine from the point of view of the processes which are developing in the world, in Europe. In order to discuss these issues, we invited our experts, and I would like to introduce them. Mr. Alexander Sharov, professor, who's working at the National Institute of Strategic Studies, Kristina Avramchenko, representing the Institute of Social Economic Studies, Yuri Mironenko is also the head of the board of the institute. Marianna Onufryk is an expert on social issues, and Yaroslav Zhalilo, a famous economist, and he will be talking more about economics, I believe. So we are starting our discussion, and the first question, or the first I would like to give the floor to Yuri Mironenko, who was at the forum in Krynica. He heard all the discussions. What was the discussion about in Krynica? What was the place of Ukraine there, and what would you like to mention about that discussion? Good afternoon. We will be talking not a lot, but we'll share the impressions, every one of you who was there. If you have questions, we will have enough time for that. A little bit about impressions. That was the forum dedicated to European issues. Mr. Yaroslav will tell you more. He participated in 2 panels. Marianna participated in 1 panel together with 3 ministers of social policy from European countries. Kristina was moderating one of the panels on modernization. That was a European discussion. And obvious things which we immediately notice. Europeans want to hear from us the economic discussion, how we will be integrated, which spheres will be developing, where we can attract investments, how we will be defending, protecting these sectors. And they talking about digital technologies. I believe that Yaroslav will tell about that in more detail. It's obvious that the sanctions, the military aggression that we will discuss, will be talking about all the time, is important, but we need to start a different discourse. I would like also to say a few words about our institute. Our organization is an organization of horizontal of experts. Some of the positions have more administrative nature. What we've heard there, European partners want to see the common rules of game for their business and our business. We see it looking at the projects we have in the institute. When we are drafting some laws, and we have to draft them non-publicly because some of the rules are to be drafted, then approved, and then only made public so that we have fewer risks. But Europeans have great interest to our country, and they sincerely want us to get integrated into this space. Thank you again for coming, and please join our discussion. Thank you. We will invite you all into the discussion. At the forum in Krynice, a lot was said about Ukraine. The Ukrainian delegation was there, headed by the Prime Minister. There was a delegation of experts. And despite the fact that there were many political issues, but the economic issues were the major issues in the context of Brexit. They were looking for economic reasons of all these processes. So I would like to give the floor to Yaroslav Zhalilo, and he'll talk about our way to integration. Yaroslav will probably tell us what we need to do faster, what we need to adjust, so that we harmoniously get into the processes, join the processes. First, that we need to understand when we are talking about Euro integration intentions of Ukraine, that is that the agreement on association agreement cannot be assessed only looking at foreign trade. That is just the top of the iceberg. But the main thing is that the association agreement is change of economic model, forming in Ukraine the model which will be adequate to European and not just European partners. And also it will be effective for functioning of rational economy. We need to think about what should be the place of Ukraine as to EU, as in the EU. And I would like to go back to the topic of the forum. The slogan was Europe in the face of challenges, unification or disintegration. It was about how to reintegrate integrate Europe. We believe that the challenges are not the challenges which are the consequences of deepening the integration. These are the phantoms of the future. So these of the past. So these challenges are to be overcome not by going back, but by going forward, learning new trends of European economy. And the main idea, the main expectation from reforming the European Union is to achieve inclusiveness of European model, to make for every citizen clear what has the EU done for them, what the problems does it addresses now, and to restore European solidarity this way, to overcome all the problems related to Brexit. And the discussion is going on in the framework of spreading economy, digitalization. The Industry 4.0 was mentioned. The economy is such that it is developing on the basis of cooperation and networks. It ruins national borders. It is objectively the factor for further integration. And that has been mentioned at many panels. Digitalization is not a technological issue, but social and managerial. It's happening autonomously, and it depends on how all manage to regulate and direct this process. On many, it depends whether digitalization will become the factor for further development or not. If we want not just to implement the association agreement for our internal needs, but to get the maximum profit from international cooperation, we need not to be concentrated on our problems, but position ourselves in the discourse of the European trends. And till Ukraine comes to European discourse, it will not have this subjectiveness. We have to address our own problems ourselves, and the European Union will not be resolving Ukrainian problems and the main thing, the main idea is, I believe that today Ukraine at the level of diplomatic representation, at the level of business contacts, civil society contacts, the main thing it should be doing is to generate messages to unite reintegration of Europe. And the association agreement itself has many issues. Ukraine can cooperate in different forms: joint research, legal support, getting different programs, different trainings for civil society, for civil servants. I cannot say that we're not doing it, but because there's no initiative from Ukraine, it is not done a lot. And finally, we believe that if Europe will postpone deepening cooperation with Ukraine, economic and other, saying that we have war and corruption, the more these problems will be deepening. It is impossible to resolve them without implementing European mechanisms. We need to understand it, and Europe needs to understand it. If we delay it, Europe can lose the potential and we can lose the dynamic. So what can be done? It is difficult to give the list of all the perspective directions where cooperation with Europe could be beneficial. But at the international level, we can talk about forming joint institutions with Europe as to helping investments, helping trade. At the level of national governments, we can talk about the mechanism of technical assistance like twinning. At the level of regional communities, we can talk about trans-border cooperation. At the corporate level, business level, we can talk about contacts at the level of businesses and at the level of civil society. And it is important. It is also important to cancel the visa regime for Ukraine. Individual contacts are very important. If we create such institutional environment, then everything will be fine. Thank you, Yaroslav. Yes, you're right saying that Ukraine shouldn't be concentrated on its own problems, but should understand how it can get involved into the processes taking place in Europe. I was present at many discussions. I heard our experts, and my impression was that we need to change the nature of international presentations. We shouldn't be talking about the past and the present, but we need to talk more about what are our plans for the future. I believe this will be very useful to start new projects so that Europe and the whole world see what Ukraine plans for the future. Our next presenter is Alexander Sharov, and he will probably talk about what will be the place of Ukraine in the future in European Union, what are the objectives of the process of integration.
Thank you, Anatoliy Arkadievich. Firstly, I would like to support and continue the idea of Yaroslav Anatolievich that we should join European discourse and participate in economic discussion in order to look like the member of the club, the country that lives together with others. And I was not in Krynica. I haven't been there for 15 years, but previously I attended, and now I understand why. When I was there the last time, they discussed the problems. The ministers of economy were present, and our minister attended, and any minister could attend, and they discussed the knowledge-based economy issues. And from Poland and Slovakia, ministers came and discussed the issues, and the minister of Ukraine said, this is so interesting, and I work with some papers every day. Maybe he wanted that they had pity, but he showed that they talked about it not because it was so interesting. They just spoke about their everyday work and the results expected. And our economy dealt with other issues, and now they speak about digital economy. And I know whether the minister attended, but maybe if he attended, he would say, but I deal with, and he would say the things he does. So this is one of the main problems and why I don't go there. So now I'm going to speak about the matter, about European integration of Ukraine. We can speak about it a lot because my colleagues and me, we deal with these issues a lot, and this is really multifaceted problem. Speaking about pragmatic view, this is a difficult problem, and we should speak down to small details how it can be implemented and how it is done in Europe, in financing, in banking, in agriculture. When we are speaking about European integration, it happens so that we are speaking about civilizational choice. I won't speak about it now. This is a question for discussion on civilization. This is a separate problem. Maybe philosophers or political scientists should speak about it. But if we are speaking about pragmatic view, why does Ukraine need European integration? Because our economy needs modernization. If the Minister of Economy will going to continue with his paperwork, he said about licenses, certificates, and other things. But we should deal with the economy of knowledge and the digital economy. We should take care of these issues every day. Otherwise, our economy will be in decline. So we need innovative investment. Where can they come from? When I worked in bureaucratic systems of government, they said that there were many innovations in military sphere, but we see in 20 years there are no innovations in this sphere. In the film, like Kinzadza, everything is it cannot promote and develop the economy. So why didn't we integrate with Russia? They said that this is a European and Asian space or customs union, but this is the unity of two entities that are poor. And other issues that were discussed, the integration with China. They said that we should do like they do in China. So that everything should be under government control. But we know where Chinese innovation come from. They are bought for money we don't have, or they are stolen. And these innovations can be taken from the United States. Unfortunately, we don't have such deep relationship with this country. You know why. I cannot speak about it now. And we have choice, but we do not have alternatives. So this is European Union, the innovative economy we can join to, but step by step. And we do it now. At the moment, for us, it is very important where are we going to integrate. Yaroslav Anatolievich mentioned that there are their own problems and rate of development, and we should understand that tomorrow the European Union is not the same as it was before or as it is today. So what are we going to join? Not only the problem of Brexit. European Union, it is not something whole. There are many elements. So there are many crises and there are many problems connected with the continuation of Lisbon process. of creating the United States of Europe. And you know that there was such a project, and for many it is the process of restoration of the Roman Empire, and there are many projects like this. There are some French project, German project, and Britain step aside a little bit of this process, and German and French projects united, but this envisages some loss of economic sovereignty of other states. The Franco-German center remains, and the matter is not only that Britain said that we will be aside of this. We are in Europe, but we are not in the EU. The problem is what will be the attitude of other countries in the east or in the south, and we should understand that at the end we will come to the European Union or they will come to us. But in what segment we are going to be, economically and territorially. And here in Krynica, maybe they said about it that Poland, they promote the project of Baltic and the Black Sea integration, and there is Visegrad 4, and there is Turkey behind the seas or with the sea, so whether it is Europe or not, but this is an option. And speaking about integration in geoeconomic sense, it is important to understand, in my opinion, and in the opinion of my colleagues, that we should be in these micro-integrations, because they will play more and more role. So Europe, this will be the integration with some rate, and it's very important to establish what is the rate of integration and the depth of this integration. Because of Brexit, some projects of banking union were delayed, and fiscal union, and the fiscal union is direct and this is the continuation of Euro Union, whether it is a common currency, and some countries can be excluded from Eurozone, or and for us, in prospects, we should understand our banking and monetary policy, how we should build it, so we can take some good experience from different countries, but we should work on a systemic level and understand that we will join some banking union, but not fiscal union. So, for example, we will have our own hryvnia, like, for example, in Great Britain, they have their own pound. And I would like to stress that this is not only my opinion, but I join this opinion that the leaving of European Union by Britain is not the ruining of the Union. And it doesn't mean that Great Britain will be outside the EU. This will be some sort of association, and this association can be useful for us at some stage, or maybe as a result of our integration. So there are many different directions in Euro integration we should speak about, and not only to speak, but to do something real, to make some steps that will be in that directions. And one more thing I wanted to say, the place of Ukraine, in what areas it can work. So this issue is raised often, Ukraine in European economy. What is our role? Agricultural economy, raw material economy, nanotechnology country. When we discuss these issues, I always remember about the example of Rutherford or other physicist. Rutherford he had some laboratory workers, and he gave them some specific tasks, and if a person came and asked what to do further, he fired that person despite the task was implemented. So if a person does not understand what to do further, nothing good will come out of it. That's why if we ask what area we should develop, the answer is no area. So if you just think about it but do not implement, nothing will be good. So the priority should be made. So not just to find the niche, but we should do what we can do the best. So in global economy, if you should do something in the best way possible. You should be among the top 10, because markets are open, or the alternative is the North Korea, because competition in the world is global, and we should develop different areas to provide support to them. Not because some minister found some paper and wrote what field should be developed, but maybe some other fields where there are ideas, and at the end about the ideas. So the knowledge-based economy. If knowledge is not supported, the development of this area is not supported, the innovative ideas will not be brought light. So in the reservoir style, what should be done further? And the topic that was popular in Europe is the issue of decentralization. It's not a secret that today in Ukraine this is also priority issue, and the budget that will be discussed soon. We heard that officials say that the course to decentralization will be preserved, and we will use Polish experience in this. And I would like to give the floor to Ms. Avramchenko. She was a moderator of one of such panels concerning decentralization in Ukraine, where the experts from Poland and Ukraine were present. So could you please tell us briefly about the results of this discussion, and maybe about the recommendations for further decentralization in Ukraine? Good afternoon. In the context of our today's discussion, I'd like to say that in Europe they discuss fourth revolution, digital economy, and we didn't do our home task we had to do, that our neighbors like Poland did in 1990s. We should change local government structure, and we should implement this reform in order to deal with the issues that are persisting, and there should be some must-haves in the issues in order to develop economy, to leave this old Soviet system behind, and to adhere to European aspirations. So decentralization was one of the priorities of the Revolution of Dignity, and a lot have been made, but now in Ukrainian society they speak that the reform is not going with the rate we wanted it to, and the issues that are discussed is that there is no coordination body that would be responsible and would bring this case to the end. And one of the problems we hear about is that in Ukraine and in Poland they speak about it, and Polish experts also provided their recommendations that changes to the constitution were not adopted, and that's why there are delays, and CEC not provide the basis for the election because it contradicts the constitution, and also weak information support, and at the grassroots level people even do not know about it. Maybe some top TV channels should promote this idea more, and also state regional administration also lacking resources, and these resources are provided more to the territorial communities. In Poland, they discussed these issues, and in Ukraine, there were many panels, and during each panel, we discussed this issue, and we had a separate panel on this reform. And our Ukrainian colleagues, and Mr. Druzenko, he was not able to join us today. But people said whether this reform is timely in Ukraine because we have difficult economic situation and war in the country. And our Polish colleagues said that they implemented this reform in a very difficult situation, and the economy was in a bad condition, and we should implement reform despite all. And they motivated us to be more active, and also about this coordination body, or a person responsible. This person was not a politician, but an analyst, an expert, a technocrat, and despite political forces, he had the goal to implement this reform till the end, and they succeeded. They carried out reforms in 1990s, and now they discuss whether it was successful, and there was also panel on Polish decentralization, and there are issues about middle level. We know that there are voivodstva, gminy, as in Ukraine, they would like to do raions, regions, raions, and communities. So now they discuss whether the responsibilities meet resources, and now we should create the basic level of community. So we should implement reforms, and we should do it fast, and to deal with issues not with administering resources, but of creating the resources, digital technology, and fourth, production revolution. So in my opinion, this reform will accelerate its pace when there will be economic growth, and communities will get more funds from economic activity, not only from excise, but from the results of economic activity. We discussed global issues and touched upon on local issues, and the main is a person. And in this respect, a lot have been said during the forum, and today this issue is on the agenda in Ukraine. What is the social policy? There was a wonderful plenary discussion whether well-being society is possible concerning the challenges in the economic sphere. And I was impressed how the Europeans from the Eastern Europe, how they strengthen social programs connected with birth rate, and also concerning family support. And I give the floor to Ms. Onufryk, who took part in these discussions. Please.
What can we take for Ukraine? Good afternoon, esteemed colleagues. First of all, I would like to say why we pay so much attention to Economic Forum, to what was happening in Europe. There were about 4,000 participants there, because in fact, it's very important for us, for the country which declared its European integration, to understand not just what is happening in Europe now, but what ideas are there, what programs are being implemented, and where they're planning to be in 10 years. This is all discussed now and here, and as Christina said, we don't have these dozens of years, but we need to implement these programs immediately. So in fact, at the Economic Forum in Krynica, all countries understand perfectly well who they are doing it for. They're doing it for a person, for Europe. And the issue of social capital was discussed, its accumulation, the development of human capital. And there is a competition between the countries of European Union, which ideas, which programs they will be implementing in their countries, so that this accumulation of social and human capital takes place. These spheres where the education, the public health, a lot of attention was also discussed. These issues are very important for European Union. They were presented at a very high level. I mean, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Social Policy, the Minister of Family. They were not just at the plenary sessions, but at the panels during all 3 days. Such attention to these topics demonstrated that that is something that the whole European Union is concerned with. So briefly, what was mentioned. The social capital is a potential of mutual assistance and mutual trust. And there is now, Europe is in crisis, and there is the crisis of trust between Northern and Southern Europe, Eastern and Western Europe, and also Ukraine was discussed, the countries of Visegrad, for the countries of Eastern Europe. They were saying that they do not understand the context of importance of resisting Russian aggression in Europe, because they suffered from that for many years, but Western countries did not survive through such situations. Also, the issue of finding the trust was discussed. There were calls for reviewing the European values, and because many countries of the EU understand them differently. Discussing these European values and priorities, a lot was said about social dialogue, about social capital, and a lot of attention was paid to education. Everywhere where they were discussing education, there were representatives of business. There was a parallel there, that business and education should work together. The Ministry of Education of Poland was saying that they have already signed contracts with the National Bank, with big industrial groups, that at the level of school programs, these companies, these institutions will participate there to make education more contemporary. Another example was given, Germany, where the system of vocational training is one of the best in Europe. Germany is considered that Germany basically suffers least than any other European country from unemployment. The Minister of Education of Poland also stated that the main requirement to teachers, and they are talking a lot about training of teachers. They're saying that the child should trust the teacher. That's the main category for the teacher. Also, the issue of aging of population was discussed. Till 2025, practically 2 billion persons in Ukraine. 2 million probably will have, in the country, will have the age of 65 plus.
При тому, що якби з
From the economic point of view, they are not saying that this is a problem. They are saying that this is quite positive. Such a long time lifespan for people means development of economy. A lot of attention should be paid to education of such people. Now many professions get obsolete, and Poland, let's talk about Poland, is a leading country in Europe in the issue of education, so-called silver universities. 20,000 universities of silver age exist in the world, and there are 20 million students there. Poland is one of the leading countries where they pay a lot of attention to that, where they create the houses of active senior, where business gets oriented to the needs of such people.
Кому старінні населення і в низькій народжуваності.
And we saw one more positive thing, that the level of unemployment will be reduced because the need in jobs will be reduced and the jobs will be filled in. And so now they are talking about the quality of a job. We need to make jobs with high added value so that they ensure the well-being of people, bring them a lot of profit, as well as a lot of profit to the economy. They were discussed, the panel where I was present and where 3 ministers were present, were also discussing this issue of demography. Also, they were discussing the issue of priority families. In Poland and in Romania, the ministry is called the Ministry of Family and Social Policy. In Hungary, it's called the Ministry of Human Potential. And this ministry is taking care of everything, of education and public health. They have the integrated vision. The new members of European Union, Hungary and Romania, are trying to catch up quickly and to increase the social capital. About 2.5% are allocated for family programs in the European Union. In Hungary, it's 4%. In Poland, they are trying to achieve 3.4% of their GDP. Why is the family so important for Europe? You probably know the work of Francis Fukuyama Trust, which says that the family is the main source and resource of this society, and it's the basis for economic growth. We have big problems with that, talking about pro-family policy. A few minutes ago, there was a discussion here about fatherhood. The family is not removed, is not a priority in Strategy 2020 or in coalition agreement. This is the topic which is avoided, but we need to pay attention, big attention to that. Because talking about reduction of population from 1991, we lost almost 18% of the population of Ukraine. We are now holding the second position in the world on death rate. We are
Такі оці показники смертності.
The death rate leads to very sharp decrease of the population. Also, the rate of divorces is very high in Ukraine, and such trends to disintegration of the family, to not paying attention to that, means that we are not trying to increase our social capital, and it will be very difficult to achieve these economic indicators in the future. And so I would like to end this with the following. The social, economic, and economic programs are different programs. And I would like to call our Ukrainian government to pay attention to social programs, to think about perspective. In Europe, they were saying that they had their reform of education in the 90s. And we see now that not just the students go to study to Poland, but the senior school pupils go there. Thank you. I would like to confirm what Marianna said, that there is an impression that whatever we are talking about, they all the time address it to a person. The person is the biggest resource of European countries for their future development. Ukraine has to pay attention to that when working on the budget. But I have an impression, in order for us to implement these programs, for that the economy should grow, should produce some resources, because they grow and they increase and we reduce, and that's the problem for the future development of the economy. Now we are completing our round table. I would like to ask other participants, maybe you have questions to experts, or maybe you want to say something. You're welcome.
Будь ласка, в мікрофон.
Уточнення до Мар'яни.
The question to Marianna, you said that in the EU what are the figures
3-4 или что-то такое.
in Ukraine?
Навіть орієнтовно дуже важко сказати.
It's difficult to say it. It's probably less than 1%. We have a big disbalance. And because of the deficit of pension fund. But to compare it correctly, we need to make our statistics harmonized with the European.
Чи ще питання або уточнення?
Any other questions?
Дякую.
Institute of Economy. First of all, I would like to thank the participants of the round table for this information about forum in Poland. It's interesting. I would like to ask, was there any signal from Ukrainian delegation as to the trends of the development of European economy?
Ukrainian, наверное.
Of Ukrainian probably economy, and what can you suggest for the development of Ukrainian economy? This is the question to all participants.
Що зробити?
What to do is another topic. I mentioned some institutional changes which should be created by the environment. The first priority today is to create in Ukraine maximum transparent environment for economic cooperation, for investors, to minimize corruption, tax, to guarantee the standards of law. As to signals from Ukrainian delegation, it was physically impossible to be at all panel discussions where Ukrainian colleagues participated, but I can tell you about the presentation of the Prime Minister. There were 4 Prime Ministers of Visegrad plus Ukraine. I believe that this potential was wasted. They were talking about war, about Russian aggression, but the ideas on Ukraine becoming the member of European community, such ideas were not mentioned. I can say as to Ukrainians' representation on social issues, there was no one of senior civil servants. But what we need to do here we need to improve the well-being of people of our country, because without economic growth, it's like a spiral. Economic growth will depend on how much we invest into education and health. Talking about what can be done specifically, we need to review minimum social standards and guarantees, the minimum salary, and that is on what the social payments depend. And I like the idea of Romania. They now are implementing reform under the slogan moving from benefits to
реєстр.
services. And another important aspect should be enhancing effectiveness of spending money which go for social programs. We need to think of deinstitutionalization.
Комунальні послуги і так далі. Тобто це надзвичайно неефективно. І в цьому світі доведено, наприклад, що вартість
It's about different institutions for disabled. And on economic policy, the Institute has developed the policy of pragmatism. We gave our ideas on what is to be done in economy. We believe to achieve the level of Poland, we need to grow 7% annually. For that, we need to make investments into economy priority number 1. And everything should be directed towards attracting investment.
надати гарантії.
To create conditions and provide guarantees to investors that their investments will be profitable here. Also, two other priorities is develop export, which will provide quick resources, and to change the export from raw material model to more high-tech model. Answering your question, it's good that Ukrainian delegation was present there, but what will we do with the economy? There were no such messages. what needs to be done, having analyzed the ways of development of European countries, we were analyzing the programs of the government. We see that besides the GDP growth, they changed the structure of the economy. First, they had 10-15% of high-tech economy. Now in Czech Republic and Poland, we see up to 40-50% of high-tech. And that gives a much bigger growth. To expect that we can grow more than 3% is impossible. If we start doing it now, the recipe is unknown. That's what we have in our survey. We took the recipes from other countries. And I believe that some MPs and the ministries know that we need to create conditions for at least some sectors. We need to invest some part of the budget, then show Europeans how we can spend our resources. We need to show what we want to develop. I believe that our senior civil servants did not talk about economic priorities in Krynica because they were examining the presidential address. Some of the main directions, which are priorities. First, overcoming monopoly and the full-fledged development of the competition. Second, priority support of science and education. Third, ensuring the rights of private property. Fourth, development of medicine and health sector, and the improvement of labor legislation and labor ethics. These are European values. Neil Ferguson published his work Civilization recently, which is called The West and the Rest. And he analyzed the reasons for the advantages of European civilizations. That is what made Europe modern Europe, contemporary Europe. We need to implement all these European values. Thank you. Thank you. One more question and we complete. Andriy Megil, Concord Company, what is export of education abroad? I know from my own experience. When you say that the person got education in Poland, that scares me because they are not adapted to our country. Western diploma cannot always be used here. But when Western investors come, they want to see companies similar to what they have there. Italian embassy was looking for some producer of equipment in Ukraine with certain requirements. We need to liquidate these gaps. Thank you for the panel. But I believe, are there any institutional forms between vectors and priorities? Where are there any review of what we have and of what we need to implement? Because we have a big gap. The conditions created for business does not mean that the business is created. We have plenty of IT specialists, but some of the vacancies cannot be filled in. Where are the gaps that we need to close to so that we can start moving? I will try to answer this question And I will sum up our discussion. You know, I believe that first that we need to look for today is the possibility to grow 7% a year. And that is what is included into the Sustainable Development Objectives, which are now being adapted to Ukrainian realities. And we need to search for that. We can talk a lot about different programs, but if we don't have money for that, then the programs will not be implemented. Also, it all starts from the person, and it all happens for the sake of a person. So human capital shouldn't be lost. We need to do everything so that talented Ukrainians work in Ukraine. Third, we need to do research. We need to research how the world develops, and as Mr. Zhalilo said, we shouldn't be concentrated on our problems, but we need to see where we are in the context of the world and Europe. And we need to plan our future related to that. As to the development, we prepared this work of political pragmatism, where our approach is based not on sectors but principles. The main principle is high value added and export potential. This way we say that the state should be implementing an active economic policy. It should support certain sectors which are selected according to these principles and which have an innovation component. And this way we can achieve these 10% of growth, which will change our approaches to further development. And such a country has the future in the European Union and in all other plans of Europe. Europe is developing. It makes plans, it makes the strategy. We need to do a lot. On that, I would like to thank our experts, my colleagues. I would like to thank all who participated today in the discussions. Thank all who supported our roundtable and organized it, and we will try to implement it practically. Thank you.